So yeah, welcome to the show. Let's get started.
So
Okay.
Chanel, it's been like such a long time. Remember the last time I seen you, we did this, right? We did a show, and it's funny because during the workshop that we was at, I remember they did the raffle, and
Yeah.
we had to I put my first name and my last initial of my first name, and you looked at me, it was like, you Chanel F2? Because I'm Chanel F2. And I'm like, oh, for real? And he was like, yeah, I'm Chanel Fields. I'm like, I'm Chanel Fladger, but yes, we sisters now. So
Yes.
we've been cool like ever since. And like, I actually purchased your book. You have
Uh-huh.
at the time, was it The Power of Forgiveness?
Yeah. That was the
Yeah,
newest one that was coming out.
that was the newest one coming out. I remember me and my mom was talking to you forever. And then, okay, real quick. T and Boogie, I know you don't know this, but me and Chanel are so connected. Like when we first met each other, it was like, you have a brother named Corey, I have a brother named Corey.
Yes. Yes.
What was it? Your
And
grandfather, it was something else.
all of our siblings' name starts with C's.
All of our siblings' name starts with C's.
Yep.
And then it was something else. You had what was your grandfather's name? It was your grandfather.
Charles.
Charles. I have an older brother named Charles who passed.
Yeah.
We were talking about that.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, you can't find that anywhere like that. Let's keep it that. Right?
Wow.
So I already like put them on to what you do. And I just wanted to give you the opportunity because I pretty much told them the little bit of things that you've been going through, like your health condition and like, you know, all the venues and all the events that you do and you being a public speaker. Like if you could just let the audience know like what it is that you're currently doing, just so everybody can get an idea of who Chanel Fields really is.
Okay, so my name is Chanel Fields, and basically I'm a media platform public speaker. I work in television media. In addition to doing television media, I do public speaking engagements. Outside of that, you know, my heart's work is always with my nonprofit organization, which is called Spirit Change, where change people change people. So, and I have a method where I believe that change people can change other people for the better. So that is something that I promote. And then I also have a publishing company called Documents, Etc. Publications, where we help you to get started with proposals and grant funding, and not only just writing them for you, but empowering you and teaching you how to write them for yourself. So if I'm not around, you have the know-how and expertise to do it for yourself. So that's pretty much what I'm about in like a nutshell.
I mean, that was a lot.
You.
That was a lot.
Chanel, when do you get a chance to sleep, my dear?
I do. You know what? It's crazy. Like, I'm one of those people who know that, you know, you have 24 hours in a day. So I really try to maximize maybe about like 20 of those hours out of the day. If that, you know, before I used to try to go hard and like go for 22 hours, but I have been through 5 rounds of chemotherapy. And so after, you know, coming through chemo and cancer and everything like that, it was like I was lit. I was already lit before, but I was like, if you guys think that I don't know how to sit down now, it's over, because all cancer really did was just give me a new leash on life and make me want to go even harder after like all of my dreams. So, you know, and I'm still not done. There's a lot more things that I plan on doing. COVID or not, it's got to go, because I got a lot of stuff.
I definitely get it, because like that's why I feel like you're such a great person to talk to, because you mentioned like the chemotherapy. I remember when I talked to you about that, and it was just like so inspiring that even with you having like the chemotherapy and having the health issues, you were still writing books, you were still like making things happen. So I just wanted to ask you, like, how do you maintain that motivation? Because when we're talking about having that ambitious mindset, right? Taking the initiative to follow your passion, like, how do you keep motivated? What is like your force or your drive to keep you going?
You know what's crazy? Like before this whole COVID thing, one of my last public speaking engagements was with the students. We had a 3-day run at Delaware State University, and it was absolutely magical with the students. I love being there and having an opportunity to come there each year. But this year, what we talked about is similar to what we're talking about right now. And I was talking about the dash. And what really got me was I had to write first time in my life. My godson passed away from cancer. He had glioblastoma. And he and I were in the same fight, you know, with cancer and everything like that, and going through chemo at one point together. And his father gave me the task of writing the obituary. and I had never written an obituary in my life. I was like,
Mm.
oh my God, and I knew that we had to keep it short for the funeral home, but I felt like it was such an injustice because I had known him for decades. And I'm like, how do I paraphrase so little with so much to one person's life? And, it got me to thinking, like, it really lit another fire under me as if I'm not hot enough. It's like it lit a whole nother fire. Like, you know what story do I want told about me, like, when I pass,
Right.
And I think what really did it for me was being young. You remember when we were younger, your parents always said, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be? And you had to have an answer, or you were getting like a beating or something, or you
Right.
at least want a punishment. So you had to come up with like some sort of answer. And my answer was always the same. I always said, I want to make history. And my father's like, okay, doing what? I'm like, I want to make history. Like, but I knew, and I went on to say, like, although I did not know what I wanted to be, I know what I wanted to do. And ultimately, what I wanted to do ran me into what I wanted to be, or what I would become. So, from that start, it's like making history how? Okay, so as the path was set, I started, my godmother would say, use every gift God gave you. So, like, from the time I was 4, I could play the drums. So not only was drums like my passion, and not only was I good at it, but as I got older, I got paid for it. I was like, oh, like this is pretty cool,
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I went to school for writing, and later on I learned that I could get paid for writing grants and proposals and books and everything else. I'm like, oh, so these passions are actually running me into payment, and otherwise facilitating my future and making me happy because I'm doing what I love. So I was like, hold on a minute. Let me start making a list of all the things I love to do, because I don't like this job that I'm at. I don't like working
Right.
at Staples in the copy center. I don't serve a copy
Right.
center God. I serve a big God.
Right.
So I'm like, wait a
Right.
minute. I'm born to do big things.
Hallelujah.
So I'm like, okay, cool. So let's see what else I like. I'm like, okay, I'm passionate about writing songs. So I went on to, get into that music side, writing songs. People were paying for songs. I'm like, okay, cool. This is great. Went from doing that to loving everybody's teeth. So I went back to school for dental hygiene, became a pediatric dental hygienist for like 19 years and got paid for doing teeth. So I'm like, everything I love, everything I'm passionate about is actually paying for me. Like, God is making a way. All you have to do is walk in what you love. Like, everybody's here for a purpose, and it pays to know your purpose. A lot of us don't even realize that we have identity. We don't know who we are because we're so busy trying to be everybody else. We're looking to the left, we're looking to the right, and like, oh, what she is pretty good, and what he is pretty good. Not realizing that what you are is pretty darn great too, but you haven't tapped in it. You haven't let people see you shine, and you have a light that's so bright that it's brighter than Beyonce. It's brighter than LeBron. You have a light too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And like, we don't cheer for ourselves enough, so we would never believe in ourselves because we're not cheering for ourselves. We're cheering for everybody else, and for far too long we've been taught to cheer for other people, that we dim our own light and we push them to shine. And when the spotlight goes on us, we're like, no, I don't really no, I don't really, like, we shy away from it when we should step forward, like, yes, give me the mic. I have something to say, so and
Chanel,
then you have to shine. Yeah.
So thank you for that. Thank you. That was great. Allow me to ask you, right? So someone who is in search for their passion, what are 3 steps that they can take to find the passion?
Okay. 3 steps that I would say
Their
to
passion,
take.
excuse me, their passion and their purpose. Sorry about that.
Okay, awesome. So I'll start with their purpose, because sometimes that's harder to find than passion, because we already know what we like to do, but sometimes we don't know if we're good at it, or how good we can get at it. So I would say the first thing to do, where I started at, was praying, because I didn't really know. It was like, all right, everybody else seems to be in this world and they know what they want to do. I don't really know what I want to do. So I had prayed for guidance. Like, God, show me the way. Like, show me exactly what I'm here for. Because sometimes you just don't know. Like, what am I put here specifically to do? And I had to learn the hard way that I evaluated myself. So the first step is an assessment. They have to assess the inside and see, what is it that has been happening in your life so far that could possibly lead you towards purpose. And one of the things that would happen to me was from the time I was younger, even now, people will always look to me for advice. And I would say to myself, like, if I can find it, you can find, like, all I did was go research. Like, couldn't you research? They could, but that's not their gift. You know what I'm saying? And so it was like I always found myself being more of the research head, like finding the solution, finding the answers, always being willing to do stuff. And so I learned that my purpose was tied to service, because I'm only fulfilled when I'm servicing something. Like, so if I'm dedicated to volunteering, that's what makes me happy. If I'm putting a smile on your face, that's what's making me happy. That's what's making me feel whole inside. And if I'm not doing that, I don't feel whole. Like, I feel incomplete. So the first thing it starts with is assessing yourself, like analyzing all that's taken place so far, then figuring out your strengths. Like, what is it that I'm great at? What is it, my gift to the world? Like, if I brought this to the table, it would be a game changer for the entire world. What would that be? You know, so finding out what would that be. So prayer and assessment, and then after an assessment, that final evaluation, draft it out on a piece of paper and start writing all of those things down to start figuring out what your purpose actually is.
Ooh. Hold up, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished?
Chanel, I have a question for you. So I can see that you're a believer. I'm a believer as well. And I'm actually reading a book now written by Bishop T.D. Jakes called The Crushing. Have you heard of it?
Yes, I'm in the middle of Destiny right now. You heard of Destiny?
I have not yet. But in The Crushing, he really talks about our experience before we soar, right? So we look at an eagle, right? And the mom lays these eggs for the eagle, and part of them growing up and developing is she pushes them out of the nest. So the eaglets are like, well, okay, well, wow, why are you, my mother is pushing me out of the nest. Like, how am I gonna soar? How am I gonna eat? How am I gonna survive? But it's through the crushing, right? With them being crushed, them being pushed out of the nest, where they can actually soar. They start flapping their wings and they soar. They hunt and they really kind of live on their own, and they make a name for themselves. So I've seen that you've found what your purpose was and what you're passionate about, and you found so many avenues and so many things that you're so good at. But what happened in the time of your crushing, in the time where you were like, what am I doing? What is my purpose? What held you together? I mean, of course, Christ, but did you have friends? Did you lean on loved ones? Did you lean on what did that process look like? Your crushing.
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that, because, you know, at the age of 17, I got pregnant with my son. So I became a teenage mother, you know, at that time. So that, I would say, that was the beginning of the crushing, being pushed out of the nest, because now you're no longer the child that the parent pays the bills for. I had my first apartment, you know, at 17 years old. So I was forced to woman up, you know, if that makes sense. So, and having to take care of somebody else, having to be responsible for somebody else, it gave me a new perspective on life, where I almost enjoyed having to take care of someone else, you know, because it kind of took the spotlight off of me. But it also forced me to level up. Like, okay, this is not a game anymore. You know, we're not playing Barbie now. This is a real life that is in your hands 24/7, that you are going to have to put a roof on his head, over his head, clothes on his back, and everything. So what are we going to do now with the future? You know, McDonald's doesn't work because it's not enough money there. The Gap doesn't work because it's not enough money there. So what are we doing? We're going to college. Okay, but while we're in college, how are we going to make it through? Well, how I made it through, you know, Chanel, from reading a book. I was adopted at the age of 6 months, and the guy that adopted me actually made a petition to me. My mother wanted me to drop out of high school, you know, and I was an honor student. She wanted me to drop out of high school. I did not want to drop out of high school. And my adopted father said, listen, I'm going to make a pact with you. You don't have to drop out of high school. In addition to that, the money you're making at the Gap, I'm going to match it every week, you know, to make sure that you can sustain, you know, but I want you to stay in school. I want you to go to college. I ended up going to school for free on a trustee scholarship. So there was no reason why I couldn't level up and succeed. I just had to keep going. And so if it were not for my adoptive father being the financier, you know, throughout that process, I gather it would have been like much harder. But not only was he the financier for the situation, he was the motivator. He was the encourager. I had my godmother, she since passed away. She was super encouraging. She kind of like, you know, reared me with a strong hand. She could get through to me when my mom couldn't. And she just told it like it was. And she also was a pastor. So with her love and her guidance, it kind of started to mold my perception of things. And one of the things I love about her and my dad was that they allowed me to continue to be a free thinker. So I had to come up with the answers for myself. So with that crushing, you know, with the bird, the beautiful thing about the mama bird is that even though she pushes the baby off the nest, it doesn't mean that she doesn't love the baby, but it means that she has faith in the seed that she produced, that she knows that even if she pushes him, that he's manifested to a certain place where that baby can fly. Like she's done enough to make that baby fly. Now that baby has to have the same faith that once he's pushed and he's in the air, that he could fly. So I would like to think of myself as that baby that got pushed towards the crushing, and before I hit the ground, I said, oh my God, I got wings, so let's fly. You know, so that's how you start to soar. You got to know that you have wings, but if you don't know you have them, aka your identity, you can't fly. If you don't have your wings, aka your purpose, you don't know that you can fly. So it's important to have those elements in place, so as you're falling, you know, God will catch you. He'll put that air underneath your wings, and you'll start to soar. And then you know the purpose of what you made for. And I feel like a lot of people in the crushing, when they hit the ground, it's only because they don't realize that they had wings. So I hope that makes sense.
That was
He's
deep.
fulfilled right now.
That was deep.
Beautiful.
That was deep. So I have something for you, right? First, where are you located at, if you don't mind me asking?
I am located in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay, cool.
And
Nice.
yes, I'm from Wilkes-Barre. Yes.
Right, originally from Jersey though.
Yeah, I'm a Jersey native.
But she a Jersey though. Jersey.
Okay, northeastern PA now. Okay.
Right,
Right,
I've been
okay.
in PA. Look, I can rock that car. I've been in PA for 6 years. Woo, woo.
Okay, so my biggest challenge, I'm from the Bronx, right? And one of my
Boogie
biggest
down.
challenges, is that I gotta reevaluate sometimes off of the definition of like, oh, I made it, right?
Okay.
So like when people ask me like, oh, how do you feel about being in Los Angeles now? I'm like, yo, I made it out. I made it out of the Bronx. For you, what's your definition of making it? And when do you feel like, yo, I made it?
Oh wow, this is like great. I feel like I always tell people I feel like I'm in the hallway on the stairs. I don't feel like I've quite made it yet. I think I'll probably feel like I've made it in another 30 to 40 years, because there's so much more that I want to accomplish. My goal is to just die empty. And I feel like I haven't used all of my gifts yet. So I will finally feel like I've made it when I've used all of my gifts, and I haven't used them all yet. So that would be making it for me.
Right. Because I know in the entertainment business, people, you know, in filmmaking, if they get an Oscar or an Emmy, they're like, I made it. But then after that, it's like, I feel like I didn't make it. You know, like
right, because you're still aspiring to do something else. It's like, you know, what do they call it? An EGOT, right? It's called an EGOT. It's the Emmy, the Grammy, the Oscar, and the Tony, right? You know when you really make it, you make it in your heart without things, because you have to be fulfilled. Like the plateau of your fulfillment, like once you reach the actual plateau of your fulfillment, I feel is the moment where you actually really do make it. Because we've been so brainwashed to think that making it is in things like money or a mansion or a Bentley or a degree, a doctorate or whatever. I made it, mama, I made it. You know, not really realizing that's just another stepping stone to where your life is headed. And it's a beautiful stepping stone, no doubt. And I feel like people, wherever you feel you plateau at the most, because maybe for someone, their greatest life's goal was to get that doctorate. And they may have worked 30, 40 years to get that doctorate, you know, and once they get it, it's like there is a sense of I made it. I remember when I graduated from dental school, And I was pregnant again. You know, I had a baby in the belly. I was on my 4th child. Everybody was like, it can't be done. And it, not only did it get done, but I ended up graduating magna cum laude, which was amazing, you know, on top of all of the complications with the pregnancy. And I remember walking across the stage, and I didn't feel like I made it. I felt more like I did it. And sometimes I feel like we confuse I did it with I made it. You feel me?
Nice. I get that.
Yeah, and it's like, and I know you have like your network, you do the build. So how's that been going for you so far? Because I know with the COVID, you know, it's not like you at the studio anymore. I know the last time I checked you, I know you had Jadakiss on the show. You have like Candy from, you know, the Housewives. I mean, you had so many people that you were interviewing, and then it's like,
yeah,
pandemic.
New York is completely shut down. New York is completely on a shutdown right now, and it's good because, you know, it's like, while we look at the bad, like I was just telling some friends, you could look at the bad in this and say like, oh my God, this is horrible, and this and this and that, and we do have some sad things going on with the lives that are being lost and compromised because of this. But at the same time, the blessing in it is that we, by nature, human nature, we are trained to go, and we don't even know it. Like, we have the Energizer Bunny. And, you know, in our back, that battery is in our back from the time we're held in somebody's arms. And the moment we start learning how to walk, it's like, oh my God, Ray Ray can walk. Come here, do this, pick this up, do this. Let me, you know, and we're just trained to go. And I feel like this is a season, even though it's a painful season, it is a beautiful season of rest. Like, really taking advantage of resting, re-strategizing, and just receiving restoration in every area of your life. Like, I told somebody a joke. I said, well, it was really the truth. I said, you know what? I've been home for 1 week and I have painted my entire house. And it's something that I have said that I was going to do for almost a year. The paint had been sitting there, you know, and like now I'm putting up a backsplash in my kitchen. All the things that I said I wanted to do, teaching myself how to sew because people need masks. Like, it's crazy, you know, and these are these hidden gifts. You didn't even know that you could do those things, you know, like, who knew you could lay grout on the backsplash and, like, you know, do your own thing instead of calling somebody. I'm like, wow, God he's merciful, you know, and he's gracious. And if we start to look at the good amidst of the bad, there's so many beautiful things happening. The time we get to spend with our families and everything, there's great things happening all around us, you know? So I'm grateful for the shutdown of Bill. New York keeps you running. New York keeps you running, you know? So, and you never stop. You know, I think I was averaging maybe about 7 to 12 hours of sleep a week.
I remember,
Yeah, no sleep.
You
Team
no
no
sleep.
It was team no sleep. That was team Sleepyville, you know.
Girl, but you had something, Boogie?
I think, you know, it's great, and it really brings back that the fact that, you know, all things are going to work together for our good. Like, there's going to be good that's going to come out of this for all of us.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested in knowing more about your nonprofit. You said change people, help people.
It's called Spear Change. Like, can you know, well, I'll tell you the story behind it, like, real quick. So every day, you know, I was in New York. Almost 5 days a week I'm in New York. And there's a guy there, everybody knows Radio Man. If he's from the Boogie Down Bronx, he probably knows Radio Man. But he will always ask for change. And him, along with a lot of other homeless people, they will ask for change. And I anybody that knows me knows, like, I am a friend to the homeless, because there was a time when I was homeless. I had to sleep out of my car and take baths on the rest stops and stuff like that. So I promised God, I was like, Lord, if you get me out of homelessness, I will never let anybody be hungry on my watch. And I've kept my word. Like, God has allowed me to be able to keep my word. So when I see people who are homeless, they like, you know, can I get $1? Can I have some change? Can I have this? And can I have that? And you know, I was already a little late headed to work. And so this guy, I was in my thoughts, I was in my own world. And I'm like, you know what, I want to create something, you know, for people that turns it around. I want to create, you know, a scholarship program, because I have been researching doing a scholarship for like 4 years and nobody would get on with me. I said, but I don't know what to call it, you know? And so I'm like walking, and as I'm coming down Broadway, this guy says, can you spare some change? And I just started smiling at him, and I gave him $5, and he smiled at me, and I smiled at him, and I was like, God, you always, here you go with your sense of humor. I said, you know what? I said, that's it. It's gonna be spirit change. I said, because in changing his life, he's changing my life, you know, because I'm giving him something to change his life. I'm a person that somebody else gave something to that changed my life, whether it was wisdom, love, or understanding. That all changed my life and put me in a position today where I can walk across the street and now change his life, even if it's just in a meal. So I said, you know what? That's it. Spirit
The
change, where
change.
change people. And so, you know, and it just made the hairs on my arm stand up. And I was like, let me go to the USPTO, see if it's patented, see if it's trade, see it. Nope, it's available. I'm like, it's mine. You know, so then after I got it, I was like, you know what? I want this to represent something beautiful. And so me being an A student, I always was afforded a lot of scholarships. And I said, well, and I always worried about the underdog. What about the people that make B's, C's, and D's? And so I met a young man, because I used to teach in the city of Newark back in the day. I met a young man who told me he wanted to take his life because he didn't want to work at Walmart. He wanted to be a teacher because of the teacher that I had been to him, you know, and all throughout teaching at his high school. And it touched my heart so much. I was like, Lamar, I'm going to make it a point to help you go to school, help you go to college, get you the right tutors and everything. So he was my first model. And I was like, you know what? From there, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to create the first scholarship for students that make B's and C's. So it's going to be a non-GPA based scholarship. So all of the proceeds from the first book, which was If You Could Give It Up, You Can Have It All, went completely towards students, affording them a post-secondary education that make B and C level, that aspire to get better grades. But it's meeting them where they are, to show them that you don't have to work at Walmart. Somebody's gonna labor with you, somebody's gonna toil with you and tutor you to help you get the essentials you need to be better than a C student, better than a B student, until you get across the finish line with that degree in your hand. But keeping that in mind, I need you to come back and lift somebody else up and pay it forward so that you can change their life for the better too. So that's what spirit change is about.
It's funny because, like, you know, I have a book. Remember when I met you, I told you I was working on a book. And like, I remember you telling me that story. So I was like, you know what? The book that I'm writing is about a girl who is going through a lot of challenges. You understand? Like, the girl's been sleeping in shelters in New York. Like, they don't have no food. She's been missing school for a lot of days because she got to be the big sister and the mom. You know, she's only 14, but she got to take care of her siblings. And, you know, it's just so many different dilemmas with the family that I was inspired to, like, want to write a book in her honor, to let her know, like, if she is loved, that she is, you know, that she is favored. And it's funny because I almost forgot about that. Like I said, when we talked about it, and I just want to thank you for being like a mentor to me and being very inspirational, because that's what it's about. It's about helping one another, and people lose sight of that. People just is not saying it's bad to be selfish, but that's what we're here to do. We're here to help one another. Like, I don't, and I'm going to just say this. I don't know if you guys wanted to add to it, but the one thing that really grinds my gears, especially like when you're pursuing your passion and trying to get somewhere, is when people want to hold back knowledge. It's almost like they're afraid to tell you what they know because they don't want them to succeed them. It's like there's nothing wrong with spreading knowledge.
Yeah. And there's room for everybody. Like, I'm that person that, you know, if you say, where did you get this purple shirt from? I'm like, girl, you know, Marshall's on Riverview Road. It's there at the Marshall's at the second counter. If you look above the shelf, they got small, medium, large. Matter of fact, this was on clearance for $3.97. Like, I'm that person. Because, you know, I feel like it's room for all of us to shine. We're all going to shine different, but nevertheless, there's room for everybody to shine. When people, you brought it, you hit it on the head. That is like one of the main things with me that I tell people. Usually I write a lot of proposals for people to open like daycares or to facilitate with getting funding. And I make them a part of the process because I believe in empowerment. I'm like, what if I died today or tomorrow? God forbid. But wouldn't you rather have the know-how and the expertise as to know what you're paying me for and know how to do it yourself? I'm smart enough to know that there's 1 trillion people in the world, and so people are still going to need my services. But I'm wise enough to know that even if I pass that information on to you, you can utilize it and start your own business and empower other people to do it. You're still going to eat. Everybody's going to eat, you know. But a lot of that comes from lack of trust, because we don't trust, we don't trust in the provider. We don't trust in who provides for us. Like I tell people, they're like, why did you give that information away? I said, because I look at myself as a well, and I look at people a lot of times as the cup, and they feel like they can come and drink from you, and they feel like they got something and they ran away. They did get something and they ran away, but I'm a well. I make more water. You understand what I'm saying? And I never run dry, because of the God I serve. He's going to replenish me daily, whether it be in wisdom, whether it be in love, whether it be in compassion. So you're not taking anything away from me, and I was glad to give it to you. You know what I'm saying? So I look at it more like that. So I never care about sharing. Like, I'll tell you whatever you need to know, where you need to go, because we need to help each other. It all has a trickle down effect. That selfishness is what gets us where we are right now.
But do you believe that there's certain people out there that you just can't help, or do you believe that everybody can be helped?
No, I believe there's certain people out there that you cannot help, and the only reason you can't help them is because they don't want to be helped. You have people that want the hand out, and you will have people that want the hand up, and you have to know the difference between the two.
Right.
The hand up is going to help themselves. The hand out is just going to come back for something, and they're not going to do anything to empower themselves. So yes, I do believe there are people that you can't help.
So out here in Los Angeles, the homeless population is at an all-time high. It's like really crazy. And
I've been to Skid Row.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy over there. And at one point, I would tell my friends, like, yeah, you know what? Don't give them nothing. Like, they can go to McDonald's, they can get a job, like that type of attitude. And then I actually stopped one day and I had a conversation with this guy. I don't want to release his name or anything like that, but I said, why are you here? Like, what are you doing? Like, what's making you just sit on the curb, ask for $10, ask for $15? And he said to me, at the beginning, I was just really unaware of what I was doing. No. What, did it go that way? He said, no, he said, now I'm making a conscious decision to live like this. But before, I was doing what I needed to do. You know what I mean? So like now a lot of homeless people in LA, they're aware that they're homeless. They know what's going on, but they just decide to live that way, But to us, we're thinking like, oh, well, why are you living that way? And then this one dude, he told me, he said, look, I rather sleep on the ground than to pay some money, pay rent of $2,000 or pay for lights. And God provide us with lights every single day. So I'm just going to get my tent or sleep on the beach and I'll be fine. I don't have to pay anything. But that was his conscious decision to do that.
Right.
So
it's amazing. I know so many homeless people that think that way. And like you said, I don't want to release a name, but I always make it a point not to just give them money, but to get a name. One, so I could pray for them. And then two, because I always think about that person. And then two, to give them back their humanity. Even if it's for 5 minutes, they need it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're passed over. It's hard enough to ask people for $1. And then it's the second part, being judged. Some of the homeless people I've talked to, one guy, and he's doing fantastic right now. He actually had a master's degree. I met him under 280. I met him under the bridge in Newark under 280. And I was in the middle of doing a documentary at Rutgers University, Newark. And I wanted to gather all the homeless people because I wanted to find out why they're homeless, what we could do as a community to, remove food insecurity and homelessness. And so he and I got into a big talk. He had his cart under there. He had his cardboard, kind of like Antoine from In Living Color. He had the whole setup. And he told me, like, this is the kitchen. This is the bathroom. This is like, and he was serious about his setup, and while we probably would crack up, he was so serious that I got serious. And I was like, I said, if the world was to end, I know where I could come because I would be straight amongst the community because, y'all have a whole set. I was amazed at the setup. He said, I don't want to live like this. He said, but, my father told me one day to bring him his car. He said, and I was dilly-dallying around just before my college graduation. He said, and his father ended up getting shot and killed. And he felt like if he was seconds earlier, then he could have saved his father's life. And as a result, he just gave up on life. He gave up on his education, and he became a homeless person. And he's lived under the bridge since. And I was like, don't you want more? And come to find out, he had a degree in photography. He became our photographer for the documentary series. He got from under the bridge. I was able to help him get into an apartment, get his life on track and everything. He is now married, working, got money and owns a house. And this all happened from 2016 to right now. You can't tell me that God is not good. And he sends me stuff. I'm like, look at God. And he looks so healthy and he looks so amazing. But that's one person's story, and you might not know it, but we are born to make a difference in other people's lives.
Yeah.
That person we walk past might have been our destiny. You know what I'm saying? That might have been our ticket to greatness. But we so selfish and self-absorbed that we worried about us making it. We're not really concerned about the next person. But if we get time, to try to give people their humanity back, even for a few seconds, you don't even know the blessing that's in it for you. I went in it for one reason, but like I learned so much more from him. I'm sitting here thinking I could teach him something, and all the jewels I learned was from his humility. He was never late. He was always on time, and he asked me to pay him in coffee. But what God did for him was turn his entire life around, gave him a wife and everything. And I look at him and I cry sometimes. It's just amazing to see the transition from under the bridge to homeowner now.
Whoa.
Amazing. That's spirit change right there.
Yeah.
Spirit change. Right.
Yes.
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 And if you look at the pandemic right now, I feel like we're all on the same level, just trying to survive. When this thing all started, everybody's like fighting for food, fighting for toilet paper,
Facts.
So all on the same level.
What's crazy? I wasn't. That's the crazy, and I'm gonna tell you why. People pick on me, but like Chanel may know, I'm an extreme couponer. I have been, and
yes, you are. Yes.
It's not even by choice. My mom made me cut coupons since I was 8 years old. So I have always been a person buying like a surplus. I always say if the world ever ended, I am the house that I am Legend House to come to and get everything you need. When the pandemic hit, the people could not get sanitizer, disinfectant, or toilet tissue. Guess who house had it though? And had been storing up, storing. I had been storing for ages. Like we literally had over 36 cases of toilet tissue here. And
why?
I was distributing to whoever needed.
You said why?
Why though?
I'm gonna tell you why. You gotta laugh.
I really want to know why.
Because you from the Bronx. You from the Bronx, so I know you can identify with this. Have you ever, and we all probably can identify this, have you ever been to somebody's house and say, I got to use the bathroom real quick, and you go in the bathroom and what happens? There's no
toilet paper. Woo.
So you carry your own tissue around?
I actually do. I carry because I just like the free fly. I don't like the kind that gets stuck to us. But
I would be so offended if somebody came over to my house asking to use the bathroom and
So Boogie, what would you use then? If you went to the bathroom and had no toilet paper, you had to drop a deuce, what was you using? What are you gonna be real?
Your hand is trying to wash your hand.
Thankfully, the people that I know have toilet paper, and I don't know what I would do. I mean, I just.
Let me tell you, I grew up in families around friends that I went to school with, and they never had. It used to traumatize me, and she said, "What would you do?" I don't even want to tell you what I did at times to just get through. You kind of do the man shake. You know how the man wiggle. I would do that and just be wet. At the you know how y'all shake.
Yeah.
I would try that, but that don't really work for us. So you gotta be what? You gotta be
But
moist.
you can't do a man shake for the number two. For the number two,
Oh
you can't do a man
no!
shake.
I had to use my hand. I had to use my hand, Arabic style, and just wash it under the sink. And then they ain't had no soap. They ain't had no soap, so
no soap.
Yeah.
You better use that Tide detergent. Use that Tide.
You can't win for trying. So
Listen.
it was like,
I have one more question. With your nonprofit, because I think this is so interesting. I think it's amazing, especially for those of us. I mean, Chanel, Terrence, we live in areas where we see homeless people, on the daily, on the regular. How is this pandemic, the fact that we need to social distance, and this is going to really kind of be in our mindset, like for I'm sure a few months, but even a few years, right? How is it going to affect your nonprofit, where giving people spare change? You're kind of not 6 feet away. You go up close. Like how is this going to affect your nonprofit? Have you been thinking about that at all?
Yes, and the beauty of the nonprofit is, we can't give to 17 people this year. We may only be able to do 8, but 8 is still a good number. Even if it was 1 is still a good number. Even if we break it, because the way that it works is that with Spirit Change, when you're eligible, you're automatically eligible for 3 years or 6 semesters. So you get $1,000 each semester towards your school, and then you get $400, and you have to open up a bank account because Spirit Change also teaches financial literacy. So you get $400 each semester. And because I want you to learn to build your own wealth. Because the one thing I had a problem with was all of the scholarships, they showed you lack of trust because they just sent the money straight to the school. I show you trust because I want to build a relationship with you. So you get the $400 each semester. Whether you take it and buy a PlayStation or some Jordans is on you, but you're learning financial responsibility. So we teach financial literacy, and based on the courses you attend with myself and PNC Bank and TD Bank North, and you complete those classes, you get $400 each semester. So, within 6 semesters, you've earned $2,400. It's not a lot, but it's more than a lot of other scholarships do. So even if I had to break it down to where, like I said, it's not 17 people, but it's 8 people, I would be okay with it being the 8 people because we're still able to help, or even if it's 1 person this year. But thankfully this year, we're still rolling strong. To God be the glory. My books are still selling. I'm still getting Amazon payments and thrift payments and Strand payments. And I'm telling you, it comes in the middle of the night. I just get the email and I'm like, okay, cool. And that's being accounted for and just waiting in the wings for that student. So right now, with school being on freeze, everything is online. But even with that being online, I'm still willing to send it out, to the schools, to the university, and still to that student. And thank God for Zoom, because we can still do financial literacy conferences via Zoom, via, myself and PNC representative, and still teach the financial literacy and the incoming freshman course that's needed, to provide for them. So it doesn't, for me, it doesn't really affect too much other than the personal touch of being there one-on-one, but it's still possible to get things done. So, I'm grateful for that.
Good.
Chanel, we're always grateful to have you on the show. But before we head out, could you let everybody know how they can get in reach with you? They can get in contact with you?
Okay, sure. Yeah, you can reach me on Instagram at Chanel Fields INC, or you can reach me on Facebook at Chanel Fields, ChanelFields at facebook.com. And you can reach me via email at Chanel L Fields, ChanelFields 2020, like the year, at gmail.com.
Any final words for you, Chanel, that you want to leave us with? Any gems, anything important?
If I'm going to leave you with anything, I just want you to know that to remember how great you are, to remember to cheer for yourself, and to never forget that you were born to do great things. You're not here for any, just to sit around. You're here to do great things.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Chanel.
Thank you,
welcome.
Chanel.
Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate you so much.
I love
Thank
you.
you.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I'll talk to you later.